Welcome to Factorio Space Exploration. This is a summary of day 31 of our Let's Play campaign. So this was an interesting day because I spent almost the entire time in orbit, which is the first time at all that we spent more time, or the majority of the time, pretty much all of the time actually, in orbit. We had a few things to sort. Whoops, one exploded. Yeah, so one of the key things that I did, two things, I think. And that is, first made my first science pack, space science pack, and the other one, not the space science. Oh no, I've been messing around with some roboports here. Let's get those out. Okay, don't like having those in my inventory. There we go. And all right, so getting my first called Energy Science Pack. The first few of these, they are very difficult to make, but yeah, we get started. And then I've been working primarily on a concept. So we did, last time we found this grid with the roboport with substations, and I kind of like that. So first thing we did was we moved these onto the grid. We've expanded the base quite a bit. It's expanding in all directions, and just trying to figure out how the layout is. This is still very much a work in progress. We've now upped our artillery here, and somehow this is not really working, but it does have enough, so must have been some meteors coming in, since there are 6 of them recharging. So that's pretty good that we have 12 of them then. Good. Okay, so basically I want to build first, and not first and foremost, but first I want to build like a hub where I build all the things I'm going to need for construction. Then at the end, last time we built the first one of these components. Let's have a look, because they might not be totally familiar with it. In order for us to make one of these science packs, they need significant data, and then energy insight, and some cold thermal fluid. Cold thermal fluid is now easy, so we sidestep that for a bit. The insight is the worst part, because it needs 36 energy insights for 2 of these. These are going to be changed later on, where you can do multiple simulation and mix them up and then be more productive. But it requires you unlock multiple different space science packs. What we did was, the first time, I think it was this one we created first time, the quantum phenomenon data. That was where we ended last time. We built that up here. So we simply just continued from there, making the gel, the chemical gel being here, again being transported in, cosmic water, yeah, I keep calling methanol, but it's petroleum, and then getting chemical gel. The chemical gel goes in here, makes some spectral mirrors. These seem to be something we need in kind of high quantity, also given some of our new research. How fast is this producing? Oh, it's producing very fast. This might actually be one of those things that are used in high quantity. Now then we get 10 blank data cards. Wow. For 9 polarization data. What am I doing here? Wow, this is very different from the rest of them. This is basically saying 10 to 1 in 1 second. So this one's producing like stupidly fast compared to all the other ones. So this one produces 1 every second, or basically 0.9 every second. Right, because of crafting speed 10 for these. Yeah, that's really crazy. I did not notice that before that. Right, oh, this one is, so this one's saying every 10 seconds you produce 9. So that's 0.9 per second. And the other ones, let's say this one, it's just 1 every 10 seconds. So this one's actually 10 times more productive than the rest of them. Strange. All right, then we have another. What we're actually seeing here is that this is outputting not the hot ones, but the cool one, thermal fluid. So that has to be processed again as such, and going back into the network. This one was easy. All I needed was just get some radiation data. Again, 10-second cycle. This only uses 10% of a uranium, so I don't know why it's so low, but it is. And up here let's get that one at the end. We have the other ones. Oh, yeah. So here we make, the reason why we wanted to make the gel was also the gel goes in here together with a tiny bit of stone. 1 stone for 1000 plasma. Going in, goes into the plasma accelerator. Is it plasma accelerator? Is it a particle accelerator? Just feeding it in here. Just a tiny bit of copper as well. And the ion stream is then used for this one to get some cooling. And this one not with any cooling. This one is working on a 20-second cycle, while the other ones are on a 10-second cycle. Yeah. And then we have all 5 of them. Let's figure out which one we're not getting. Which one are we not getting? We're not getting the plasma electrodynamics data. That one. For some reason we're not getting this one. I don't know. I guess it's just a matter of one of them has to be a bit slower than the rest. I mean, this is all saturated here, so it is continuously moving. I can always like to put one of these in, but it really wouldn't make a difference. I think it's mainly about getting the data cards in. Data cards are going to be like our critical resource here. So what happens is this one is working. It's actually still working continuously, so not really a big deal. One of these are coming in, boom, and it gets feeding in here. Unfortunately, none of these can be. Nothing in space that can be done as speed productivity. We're gonna go in here. Actually, interestingly enough, we're not even coming to pick up any energy catalog. So the energy catalog is then, I'm just explaining the process because it is kind of complicated, and especially the first time. So the energy process here, you always just put in more if you feel like it. Going in, gets processed on a supercomputer, and let's see how it's crafting 1.5. This is a 10-second cycle. Yeah. Okay, so 10-second cycle. One goes and creates the insights. The insights are used in stupid amounts. They're used for 2 things. They're used for the final product, the science. Here, one of those. They're coming in. They're fine. Just waiting. And lastly, they are also used for this one, which is the horrible thing that that we'll never ever have enough of. And this needs to be redone when I have the second set of research. So, and now at this point, it's really about getting the second type of research so I can get a combination. Let's look at that. If you look at simulation, so you can see here, I did have different. Okay, so the one I'm using here, that one insight is 36 to 2. If I'm using this one, for example, this is the one I'm going to work towards. Then I use 18 plus 18, but it gives me 3. So still 36 inbound, but now it's 2 outbound. So that's a pretty good deal. Pretty good deal indeed. And it gets better when we get to level 3. Then we can get 12 to 12. So it's still 36 in, but we get now 4 out of it. And then finally there's one here where we can get, yeah, more. Is it? What about this? Oh, it also takes longer time, but that's a minor concern, I'd say. This one now gets 5 out for the same 36 inputs. Pretty cool. Now, what I then did was, okay, so one of the things that happens here is that I have a lot of things inbound, outbound. What really came to mind as I built this was the thermal fluid here is a mess because I can't put it in barrels. There are a lot of things I can't put in barrels, and then I can just say, whatever, robot, deal with it. But there are 2 things that prevents me from scaling up. The spaghetti that will inevitably come from having these pipes just wherever I need them. There are some things like ion streams, the plasma streams, and the cold thermal fluid. Also the cool thermal fluid, actually. So there are some things I cannot move. So we start looking at a bus type, and I really don't want to avoid a bus. So I want to go with some kind of modular design that is as self-contained as possible. The reason why I want the self-contained module is because then I can look at it and say, you know what, I'll just get one more module. And I want the inputs and outputs of the module to be as low as possible, because pretty much if we look at this whole thing, there are a lot of machines, a lot of production, but none of it, very little of it is actually using any sort of significant amount of resources. The only ones that actually are using a bit of resources is that one for the multispectral mirror. Once we need a lot of those, see there's a lot of components here, or some components here, 12, 6, that's 18, 19, 20, 20. Fixed products for 1, 20 to 1, that's a lot. As the other one is down here by the thermal liquid. But the thing with the thermal liquid is it's not going away, or it's going away like really, really slowly. I lose 1% every time it goes through a cycle, if I do the fast one, and I am. So I lose 1%, that means, and it's not really expensive, so why not just make a closed loop instead of having everything in barrels going in and out? I think that's going to be a good idea. So we are going to take some basic components such as lubricants, such as the cards, such as, well, let's click some things here, such as the thermofluids, and some cosmic water. Those are like, no, maybe not. That's some basic things that needs to be done. And if we could just take that out and rebuild our science in a crisp, modular way that is balanced, this is what we have here. So this little 9x9, 3x3, so 9 here is what we really need for the setup, right? It most of the things here are working on a 10-second cycle, right? So I'm going to fix this towards the 10-second cycle and then have balanced everything according to that. And then we could look at the pipes. They're actually quite neat. You start by basically what the... Oh, I have actually listed it down here. So this unit has very little inputs and outputs. The inputs, it needs a bit of thermal fluid, but that's basically only to seed it and then chop it up, because every time it goes through a cycle, it uses 40 thermal fluid per second. No, 35, net 35 per second. And I think it's actually 40. Right? It used to 35, but it recycles them. So anyway, let's call it 40. And I'm going to lose 1%. So once it's saturated, it's only going to be chopped up like really, really rarely here. I mean, this one should be pretty much constant. And then once every, I don't know, 10, 20, 30 minutes, 1 hour, it's going to use every 10 seconds, 5 data cards, 1 multispectral mirror, 0.1 uranium, less than 1 stone, and 2 chemical barrels. Or something like that, like 1.5. So, and outbound wise, yeah, it gets a few things. It gets some junk data, some scrap, and the energy catalog. So those are very, very small quantities being transported in and out. And the reason why is because I am recycling the thermal fluid inside the unit. That means I can take this and I could just simply do copy, stamp it down, and it wouldn't strain the robots only in the beginning when seeding it, but after that it would be really really easy. And that's one I think it's actually a good idea to do 10, because it's really not going to use much. That's I'm really impressed by this. So it may take up a bit of space, but it is nice crisp shape. It has very low inputs and outputs because I'm recycling most of it. And that means we can move on to other things. So what I started working on was actually the next thing. How about making a unit that makes blank cards? Again, the principle is the same. I want to make as few as possible. So this one, for example, needs the blank cards. Blank cards come to the polished data storage. This is on a 10-second cycle. These are on a 2.5. This is on a 10-second cycle, but it's crafting speed 10. Right, so that's important. That means this is on a 1-second cycle. So if I want to have this one craft continuously, I need 2.5 of these, so they go down to 1. I can't really cut it in half, but that is what it is. And this needs cosmic water, but outputs 100 contaminated water. So if I have to, this is the part where if I want a self-contained unit, as close to self-contained unit as possible. Each one of these takes 4 polished storage. Each one of these takes 100 in, 100 out. So that means for every blank card, I would need to import 400 cosmic water and export 400 contaminated water. That's a bad deal in my experience. I would much, much rather also have the cleaning on site inside the module, and then maybe the module gets a bit bigger. These 5 match the 2.5 here. And then we can see that we have a 99% recovery, and then suddenly the waste coming out of this one, or the waste resulting from one of these productions, is now not 100 in, 100 out, but it is instead an absolute minuscule amount. It's 1% out and one out. So it's like, yeah, let's call it 1% waste. That means I'm now reducing the inputs and outputs of this by a factor 100 for the liquids. Of course, they're going to stack to 50 in a barrel, but it's still a lot of reduction. And that's basically the kind of idea I want to run in this. These ones are self-contained. These are self-contained. They only need the rough data, and then we'll have to figure out how we get the rough data substrate. We're going to figure out how we do the rough data, but we didn't run out of time. So that's really sort of the concept, and I'm going to do a similar concept for other things like multispectral mirrors. That's an easy, not multi-step process. And it seems like blank cards, chemical gel, those are things that we need to sort of have on stock and transport out. And those will be created as close as possible to my storage. Oh, look at that. Oh, are we really going to look at why the water is not coming in? Huh. 36, where's the water? Alright. Why is the water not coming in? It's empty? Huh? Did it launch and crash? I have no idea. This one's the water. For all intents and purposes, it looked like it has launched recently. And now it's okay, so I have to do it this way. This is more curiosity, and I feel that if we don't do it, this is looking fine. That's stuck here. Yes. Capsule, it's missing some rocket segments. Is that really the reason why you're not working? Why you're not getting rocket segments? This one has been filled up with the wrong things. All right, well, that's interesting. By interesting, I mean bloody annoying. But we'll take a look at that. That's a good thing for us to take a look at next time. Okay, so right, that means we now have a concept. The concept takes a long time to build, to design, and it's going to be kind of unique because it will be robots, but I'm going to minimize the amount of robots by having as close to self-contained units as possible. And that's going to be the challenge. It doesn't have to be 3x3. It can be whatever size it has to be, but I want the self-contained units doing random stuff. And that means when I see that I'm running out of one thing, I can actually make an overlay over here where I keep track of what I have of the different things. So when I have that, I can then consider, all right, I need to get one more module of this, so 2 more modules of that. And that's going to be like the long-term plan. Let's see how that pans out. Anyway, thanks for joining. I hope you are enjoying it, the series. I will let you know that this weekend I'm coming up on a vacation. So this weekend I'm going to be making 2 extended streams, Saturday and Sunday. So do check those out. Check out my schedule on Twitch. And then that means you also have a bit more VOD potential if you are not on vacation, so the coming weeks. Anyway, thanks for joining, and I'll see you next time. Stay effective.